Now at 5, a local business owner says the Joplin Police Department is not doing enough to investigate crimes against his business. Plus, a judge sides with the city of Mulberry, Kansas in a lawsuit against energy giant BP. And Russia's foreign minister says his country will not accept any Western ultimatums.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
A Joplin business owner says he's frustrated with the Joplin Police Department's response following a series of crimes at his business. This is KOAM News at 5. Josh Marish owns Jomo Moving and Jomo Bazaar. He says in December of 2020, someone accessed the business bank account and routing numbers. He says the person then began paying their own bills under their own name. His frustration comes with the police department's response, which he says has been silent.
They've told me they're overworked, underpaid, and that they've got a large caseload. That's what I've been told, time and time again. Nothing more. Nothing more. And yes, I mean, I've got the names. I went to the businesses that they cashed my checks at, got the evidence, turned everything over to JPD for nothing.
We're going to hear more of Marish's story tonight at 6. Once again, plenty of sunshine out there today. Doug Heddy.
Yeah, it turned out to be another pretty nice day for us today. I mean, most of us into the mid-50s during the afternoon. And again, pretty much clear skies across the region. Here's our next little wave building across the northern parts of the plains. A little stronger wave. It doesn't have much in the way of moisture, but it will drag in a pretty strong cold front by the time we head into tomorrow afternoon. As of right now, it looks pretty good. Most of us are sitting low to mid-50s. And as we go through the evening hours, we'll drop back through the 40s. We'll start to get some clouds increasing, especially after midnight for us tonight. But we're not going to be as cold as we go through the overnight hours. It looks like we'll only drop back into lower 40s a little bit later on tonight. But you can see a few showers trying to pop up late tonight and then into the morning hours. So through the evening, drop back through the 40s, overnight lows, lower 40s, changes moving in. We'll look at that here in just a bit.
See you then. The city of Mulberry, Kansas in Crawford County can move forward with a lawsuit against one of the world's largest energy companies. The city alleges BP gouged them with high price increases during last February's freezing weather. Crawford County judge dismissed a motion by the company to end the lawsuit, which allows residents to sue BP for allegedly violating anti-profiteering laws. In February of last year, the city of fewer than 500 residents received a bill for $51,000. BP yesterday announced a 2021 profit of $12.8 billion. Pittsburgh Chamber of Commerce today unveiled the progress on some new renovations. The Chamber building is being remodeled inside and outside. 2 new offices are being added. Should all be wrapped up in around a month. Officials say the new look will be a mix of historical and modern.
So many newcomers that this is their first stop. So this really provides a first impression to the community, whether they're a tourist, whether they're an economic development prospect, and we want to make sure that they get a good, welcoming, progressive first impression of the community, and we want our facility to reflect that.
Chamber officials say the city is covering part of the renovation costs, but most of it's paid for through the private sector. Russia's foreign minister met with his British counterpart today and said his country would not accept any Western ultimatum. Russian troops in Belarus, Ukraine's northern neighbor, started large-scale military drills this morning. The U.S. calls it an escalatory action. Reporter Emite Tiab is in Ukraine, just across the border from those maneuvers.
This border crossing leads to Belarus, where Russia is holding that massive military exercise, the largest there since the Cold War. And the fear is that it could be the first step towards an all-out invasion of Ukraine. If tensions weren't already sky high, these military exercises are only adding to the pressure of an already intense standoff. For the next 10 days, around 30,000 Russian troops will carry out joint drills right on Ukraine's northern border. The Kremlin has consistently denied it has any plans to invade. Alexei Danilov, Ukraine's top security official, says Ukraine is not panicked, but is ready for anything. The Russians may use Belarus as a ground for a provocation, he said. It could happen at any moment.
The specter of war has set alarm bells ringing across the world. CBS News has learned of a Pentagon plan to evacuate the thousands of Americans currently living in Ukraine, if needed, to nearby Poland, where U.S. forces are. But not all Americans say they're willing to leave. Like Brian Best, who's lived in the capital Kyiv for over 2 decades. It's where he met his wife and is raising his 2 children.
It's really important for you to stay, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
How come?
Because this is my home. It's part of my identity.
That sentiment is felt by many Ukrainians who say not only will they stay, they'll also fight back. Imtiaz Taib, CBS News at the Ukraine-Belarus border.
CBS News has learned the National Archives is asking the Department of Justice to investigate former President Trump's handling of official White House documents. The news comes days after learning that officials were forced to retrieve materials from Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago residence that were allegedly improperly taken from the White House. The nature of the investigation remains unclear. In a statement, the former president says he's had collaborative and respectful discussions with the National Archives. Still ahead, building a network of charging stations.
The Biden administration is pumping billions of dollars into states across the country to build more electric charging stations. I'm Skyler Henry in Washington with more on the push.
And next in Health Watch, how the death of Bob Saget is shining a spotlight on the dangers of head trauma. Topping today's Health Watch, the impact of COVID may not end with a negative test. New research finds almost a third of older adults infected with the virus in 2020 developed a new condition that needed medical attention. Those issues involved major organs, including the heart, kidneys, lungs, and liver, as well as mental health complications. The CDC is revising its opioid prescription guidance. The last time new guidance was issued was in 2016, when the agency took a hard line on it in response to an increasing number of fatal overdoses on drugs like oxycodone. Many people complained those rules caused needless pain to people who really needed the drugs, like cancer patients. The new guidelines still encourage doctors to consider other pain management techniques, but allow for more judgment over adhering to rigid requirements. The family of Bob Saget says he died from head trauma after accidentally hitting his head and most likely thought nothing of it and went to sleep. Reporter Laura Podesta has advice from a medical expert on when to take a blow to the head seriously.
Bob Saget's family says the comedian, actor, and TV host who died last month accidentally hit the back of his head on something, thought nothing of it, and went to sleep. Medical experts say he may have suffered an epidural hematoma.
It can be insidious. There's no way of telling that you've had this bleed underneath your skull unless you get a CT scan to rule it out.
Dr. Oscar Gilamondegi runs a clinic for long-term traumatic brain injuries at Vanderbilt University Medical Center. He says a blow to the head without any other symptoms that causes death is rare, but can happen.
Any blow that you're concerned about to the head should be checked out. It's that simple. I can tell you that we have folks that fall in the bathroom and they hit the head on the edge of the sink, on the bathtub, on the toilet bowl, will come in and have a major head injury.
He says anyone over 40 is at higher risk for traumatic brain injury. People on blood thinners, including aspirin, are more likely to have a bleed. And people who have symptoms post-injury, including loss of consciousness or headaches, should definitely be checked out.
What typically happens is it happens during the daytime and somebody sees you go down and they call 911. But in this case, there was nobody there to say, oh my gosh, Bob Saget fainted or passed out or whatever. And so he ended up falling asleep and dying peacefully in his sleep.
In a statement, Bob Saget's family went on to say, remember the love and laughter that Bob brought to this world and the lessons he taught us all, to be kind to everyone, to let the people you love know you love them, and to face difficult times with hugs and laughter. Laura Podesta, CBS News, New York.
The doctor CBS spoke with also says it's a myth that you have to keep someone awake who suffered a blow to the head and check them every hour. In fact, the brain needs rest, and being in a dark place without a lot of stimuli is good for the brain's recovery. New research at George Washington University finds a third of people in a large study were exposed to a potentially harmful weed killer known as 2,4-D. Researchers say use of the pesticide is increasing and that exposure to high levels is linked to cancer, reproductive problems, and other health issues. And that is a look at today's health news. A little bit later, the Labor Department's latest unemployment benefits report.
And a big cool down moving in as we head into the weekend. Let's look at that coming up. Well, it turned out to be another pretty good day for us today. Temps into the mid-50s, not too bad for February. Tomorrow, temperatures look pretty good as well. Big weekend cool down. We cool off quite a bit as we head into Saturday, but it's short-lived. We warm right back up early next week. Thunderstorms roll in Wednesday into Thursday. Of course, you can get my long-range forecast on my month-long blog. That is KOAMnewsnow.com. But it looks great. We're looking at Indigo Sky Casino and Resort. Of course, Indigo is just outside of Seneca, Missouri, but plenty of blue skies across the region. Temperatures not bad. Most of us right now are sitting into the low to mid 50s across the region. And we do have these kind of light northerly winds really kicking in all day long. And then they've switched out of the south over the past couple hours, and they're going to increase just a bit as we go through the overnight hours tonight. 7th and range line currently at the airport sitting at 53 west. Northwesterly winds at about 10 to 15. Humidity is at 41%. Through the evening hours, we drop back through the 40s and eventually near 40 for an overnight low. So not as cool as what we have seen over the past couple nights. All right, clear skies. Not much is going on outside for us right now. We are going to get clouds increasing a little bit later on tonight. A little stronger storm system. Most of the moisture is going to stay off to our east, but it will drag in a little bit stronger of a cold front. And you can see our jet stream. It's way up in the Gulf of Alaska into Canada and then slides in. So we keep getting these fast-moving weak waves passing through the region. That's going to continue at least over the next few days. Clouds increase tonight, especially after midnight. We'll stop in the morning hours. Mostly cloudy skies for us tomorrow. And really any time during the day, we can see a random sprinkle or a random shower. Here's about the noon hour. The front drops through. I still think we'll go into the upper 50s. The cold air kind of lags behind just a little bit. 42 to start, 54 by noon, high temp of 59. And again, a stray shower or two. It's going to be kind of windy, northerly winds at about 10 to 20. Clouds kind of stick around tomorrow night. Random flurry, turning much colder. We drop into lower 20s by Saturday morning, and we don't really warm up much on Saturday, only into the mid 30s. For afternoon highs, and then as we go into Saturday night, we get southerly winds returning, but still it stays pretty cold. All right, Super Bowl Sunday, kickoff right around 5:30. We're going to be near 40 degrees. We'll be dry, which is good. Valentine's Day, we start to warm up, mid to upper 50s. Tuesday looks great. We go into the 60s. Wednesday, we're near 60. Showers, thunderstorms start to develop late Wednesday, and then strong storm system rolls in, very strong shortwave. Showers, thunderstorms pushing through the region. Could get quite a bit of rain out of this system, and then we could switch over to a little bit of snow by Thursday evening. So that's our next bigger system. 59 tomorrow, 37 on Saturday. Kind of a chilly weekend, 42 Super Bowl Sunday. 55 on Valentine's Day, 62 on Tuesday, 62 on Wednesday, and then 58 and dropping on Wednesday with those thunderstorms are on Thursday.
Those temperatures, with the exception of Saturday, really look nice.
Yeah, all in all, look pretty good.
Thanks, Dave. If you own a private collection of antiques and other interesting and historic items, now's the chance to show them off to the world. The History Channel program American Pickers is coming to Fort Scott, Kansas in April. Officials with the show are asking private collectors to reach out by March 4th to be featured on the program. We've put information on how you can apply on our website. That's KOAMnewsnow.com. Coming up, the Biden administration's plans to build more electric vehicle charging stations. First, though, we honor a local veteran. Aubrey Gass served in the U.S. Army from 1943 to 1962. Joplin native was stationed in Europe and Korea and received several Bronze Stars and Purple Hearts. We salute Master Sergeant Aubrey Gass, a four-state hero. Topping today's Consumer Watch, fewer Americans filed for unemployment benefits last week. According to the Labor Department, first-time filings for weekly jobless claims fell by 16,000 to 223,000. Filings have started to drop again after a surge in January due to the impact of the Omicron variant on the workforce. The cost of living in America shot up in January. The Labor Department says consumer prices rose 0.6% last month, and prices are up 7.5% on an annual basis. That marks the highest level in nearly 40 years. An increase in the cost of food, electricity, and shelter sent inflation soaring. Gas prices are at their highest level in 8 years. AAA says the average cost for a gallon hit $3.47 today. That's a jump of about 6 cents compared to the previous week. Analysts say demand for gas is usually low this time of year, but prices are up because oil traders are concerned about the ongoing tensions between Russia and Ukraine. Electric and hybrid vehicle sales spiked in the U.S. last year. Now the U.S. House wants to make it easier to juice up by funding the construction of thousands of EV charging stations all across the country. Reporter Skylar Henry has more from Washington.
Flanked by electric vehicles, members of the Biden administration announced a $5 billion plan to create a nationwide network of EV charging stations over the next 5 years.
These new EV chargers will use American parts. They'll be installed up and down highway corridors across the country by IBEW workers, and the benefits will ripple out thousands of miles away.
The funding comes from the bipartisan physical infrastructure law, and it'll go to states and territories to cover 80% of the costs. First, the states must submit plans for federal approval.
We're not going to dictate to the states how to do this, but we do need to make sure that there are basic standards met.
The Biden administration is looking to build 500,000 stations like this one, prioritizing locations near interstate highways, rural areas, and underserved communities.
People are considering and buying more electric cars than they used to.
Data compiled by Reuters shows U.S. electric vehicle sales jumped nearly 85% last year, led by industry giant Tesla, while hybrid vehicle sales increased more than 75%. Auto Trader executive editor Brian Moody says despite the uptick, gas-powered vehicles still dominate new car sales in the U.S.
If it's electrics only, they're still well below 5%. So if you compare an electric car to a similar gasoline-powered car, you're going to pay about 20% more.
As part of his commitment to fighting climate change, President Biden wants half of vehicles sold in the U.S. to be electric, fuel cell, or plug-in hybrid by the year 2030. Skylar Henry, CBS News, Washington.
Now, under the plan, Kansas is eligible to receive $39 million over 5 years. Missouri would get $98 million, Oklahoma $66 million, and up to $54 million would be available for Arkansas. Dolly Parton is rewarding employees who study 9 to 5. The singer's theme park, Dollywood Parks and Resorts, will cover 100% of tuition, fees, and books for workers pursuing a higher education. The program called Grow You covers more than 11,000 people, including full-time, part-time, and seasonal employees of Dollywood's parent company. Parton has managed that amusement park in Tennessee since 1986. Final check of the forecast next. Up next on the CBS Evening News, a look at how inflation continues to impact all of us. Then on KOAM News at 6, we're going to have more on the frustrations of a Joplin business owner dealing with several thefts at his businesses. Plus, why the new Kansas congressional map could face challenges in court, and how a proposed bill in Missouri would change the way patients can get physical therapy treatments. Stay with us for the CBS Evening News and then KOAM News at 6. Doug, we've been on a roll weather-wise.
Yeah, all week long we've actually had pretty good temperatures. All the snow that we had last week is pretty much a distant memory, just some piles left, and that's really about it. Tomorrow, 59, we could get a few random showers late. We do turn quite a bit colder for the weekend, but still not awful for February. Back into the 60s next week, and thunderstorms in the forecast.
Sounding a little bit like spring.
Wow.
Thanks for joining us. CBS Evening News is next, and of course, we're going to be right back here for KOAM News at 6. See you then. Let's make it a great evening.